All right, welcome back to Talking Shop. We are looking at Luke chapter 2, 40 to 52. We kind of double up the first verse from last week, the end of last week, and then the story of Jesus as a boy in the temple. We're going to talk all about it, about him going there, what that means, and why is he doing this action, sitting there teaching. How many days till they find him? All that good stuff. Lots of foreshadowing, lots of insights, hopefully, for good sermons. We always enjoy your input as well, so share those as well. It's a unique opportunity to preach on the boy, Christ. We don't get that very often, so I hope you make use of it, and let's get after it.
Spit on my Lord in every way, yet I'm still welcome in the arms.
All right, Luke chapter 2, 40 through 52, the chapter. So this picks up right after we left off last time. It actually doubles up verse 40.
Yeah, if you preached on verse 40 last week,
you're out of luck. He became strong, filled with wisdom, the favor upon him. It's kind of how this one ends as well. But this is the boy Jesus, 12 years old. So his parents went to Jerusalem every year. So you find out, first off, his parents are doing what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
Right?
They are righteous people.
Yeah.
Going back to, I think it's Matthew, with describing Joseph as a righteous man.
Righteous man. So they're keeping the commands. They're going up to Jerusalem.
Three times a year, right. Every able-bodied male will gather in Jerusalem for my festivals.
Yep.
That's a lot of walking.
So, yeah.
It's far walk.
They walked to Egypt. What's another few?
So, but this time, he is 12 years old. Mm-hmm. Why is that a big deal?
12 is the traditional age for the bar mitzvah, so that's when you become a son of the commandments. And so as a son of the commandments, you begin to keep the commandments. And so this is now your age of accountability. You're now responsible for going up and doing these things.
Yeah.
So
you didn't have the teenager phenomenon in those days. You went from child to adult.
Yeah, well, their teenager was just what we would call our preteens, if you will. It was truncated a little bit, but yeah, they didn't.
Because he's a man now, isn't it? That part of the.
Certainly, when it comes to rituals and those kinds of things, I don't know about the sacrifices.
Certainly, they didn't keep a close eye on him.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
This is where people in the when it comes to Lent, right? Oh, you're not of age to fast for Lent,
right?
Because that's kind of the practices I grew up in when I was in the Episcopal Church or the Catholic Church kind of thing. They're like, oh, you're under 13, you don't have to fast during Lent.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I don't know about the sacrifices. Was he responsible for his own sacrifices now at this point? I don't know that. But Passover, certainly now he is a participant in the Passover feast in a way that he wasn't before. So,
he goes up according to the custom. They're there. They journey to Jerusalem. The feast is over. They're all heading back. Everyone's having a good time. The people journey together. It was probably it's probably like your normal traditions.
Yeah,
like if you were hey, we all meet up at Grandma's house for Christmas every year. Everyone knows their spot and their place, and you don't worry too much. Is built in. Mm-hmm. Here is part of the whole trip. They're journeying out. They're journeying back, and Jesus doesn't come back.
Yeah.
For 11 years,
behind.
he was with us the whole way.
They got used to it.
Yeah.
Well, it goes in that thing where it's like I acted like a child and I thought like a child and whatever. And so his parents forgot that he's 12 now. He's no longer a child. He's a man now.
When I became a man, I put away childish things. That's right.
So he does not go back with them. His parents think he's there. Always preaching this, if you're kind of retelling the story, this is an easy one where you can kind of do the, can you imagine going around, you're setting up camp that night on your way back, and you're like, is Jesus here?
Yeah.
We haven't seen him all day. Uh-oh. And it's like, and the worry starts building. You start getting terrified, and, as parents, every parent can relate to that sort of terror. Where's our kid?
Well, and certainly now, I mean, they're headed back along a well-known route, and they're traveling in a group for safety. But nonetheless, it doesn't mean that there weren't those who tried to take advantage, and so
but I mean,
what happened to him?
There was a good number of them traveling, so they were just like assuming that he was back there playing with the other kids,
right?
They didn't assume, and they probably even couldn't even tell them. They're like, it's fine. It's like, I mean, you guys would understand. You guys have lots of kids, and I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I remember going on a trip to San Francisco with my family for a church conference, and my sister's 13 years older than me, and so like I saw her run off ahead, so I just ran after her, and my parents assumed that I was with my sister. Right. And then next thing you know, I'm lost in the San Francisco airport, wandering around, and I'm like, and my parents probably freak out, and then my sister spots me sitting on that little counter with the flight attendants, and they're like, she runs up and grabs me. But that's what happens, right? You go around, you think you're going to where you need, and then finally you realize, wait, where's that little kid, the little one,
So they don't find him. They return to Jerusalem. And it takes a very specific amount of time before they locate him in Jerusalem. So even in Jerusalem, they're not sure where they're going to find him.
And if you've ever been to Jerusalem, those are little narrow streets. They go in all kinds of different directions. So where are you going to find a guy? Especially since Passover, you can find stories all over the Jewish histories about the number of people gathered, but there are some estimates in the millions for a feast.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine trying to search through all of that for a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, right.
So after 3 days...
what?
It was 3 days.
Wait. Right after...
No significance.
Right after Passover, it was 3 days?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Huh. All right, just wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
After the slaughtering of the lambs.
Sorry, for those of you who aren't tracking with us... Jesus died on Passover, and 3 days later he rises from the grave. Yes. So as they're seeking him out and looking for where he is at, they were, and I think they think they know where they're going to find him at his resurrection, and they do not. You seek Jesus, I believe.
Yeah.
Are the words of the angel.
Yeah. So good stuff there. I mean, you can. Definitely pull that into the sermon. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So they find him where? In the temple, right? Sitting among the teachers, listening to them, and asking questions. So this is kind of sort of rabbinic practice, right? The question and answer, you're listening, you're asking questions. And everybody is simply stunned.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like a young Ben Shapiro. It's like, where does this guy get his wisdom?
Right. They're all astonished.
Yeah.
His mom's not too happy. Right? Why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I have searching for you in great distress.
In the Greek translation that Mike did, it was torment.
Yeah.
Right?
To suffer pain, actually.
Remember what Simeon said, a sword will pierce your own soul, too.
Sure.
And this is another bit of foreshadowing that Luke's putting in there.
Yeah.
Because they were pained trying to find him, and they couldn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
But clearly, she forgot. He's a man now, so he gets to be doing manly things.
How does he respond?
Why?
Why were you looking for me?
Not a good response, man. To an upset mother.
Don't you talk to your mother that way.
Yeah. I don't get it, Mom.
Yeah.
But it's funny because Joseph doesn't say anything.
Yeah. So, why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I would be in my Father's house? Yeah. So. Yeah. It is necessary, actually.
This is the necessary thing.
This is the necessary thing, and
Yeah.
So this is the first time in Luke where you get kind of this understanding that this is a different kid, and he even knows it in Luke's gospel.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But another thing, if you think about it, we're talking about the foreshadowing, right? Well, this is after the third day, the curtain in the temple has been torn down. The separation between man and God is not there, and you have God, living flesh God, sitting there talking to you with wisdom and truth and sharing the scriptures with you. And now we have that direct connection to receive all that directly from God.
Yeah, if you're wanting to make the Easter connection, it could be the disciples on the road to Emmaus. We thought that this guy, we knew everything, and Jesus, you who slow to believe everything that's written.
Yeah.
That's looking.
So,
that's right.
So some astonishment there. Yeah.
So, I mean, he asserts the truth. This is where I must be. This is where I'm supposed to be. They clearly can't understand this yet. The full realization of who he is and all that is not yet known. And so they don't understand that. And so he just simply acquiesces.
Yeah.
It's a compassionate thing. It actually said, like, he becomes submissive.
Yeah.
He's like, okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna let John the Baptist get warmed up, and then I'll come out later and do what needs to be done.
So in essence, you might say he meets them where they are.
Yeah. Kind of.
So he's ahead of them, and he goes, "Oh, all right, we'll pull back a little bit here." Okay.
Oh, you didn't know I was supposed to?
Yeah.
Okay. But I think there is like some compassion here.
That he walks
certainly
with them.
like this is where you don't want to muddle up the Gospels by combining them, but John's Gospel is so huge on the hour language. My hour is not yet come. And you can kind of, you don't want to, I think, preach that here, but clearly it's not his time yet anyway. And so he's like, okay, and he's submissive to them.
It's all part of the humiliation phase of Christ's journey.
Sure.
Where the Son of God humbles himself before his father and earthly parents. And, later on with the resurrection, we'll get the exaltation. Or start with the descent into hell, right?
Yeah.
For the exaltation. But it fits right in nicely with this whole humiliation phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's submitting to them.
Yeah.
And then you get this little line, sort of like the end, like where it started with verse 40. But here he increases in wisdom and stature, and in the favor of God and man. I don't know. I mean, it's just moving the story along in sort of, I think, sort of a gentle way.
Yeah.
That's like giving you these little foreshadowings, these things. Because right after this, John the Baptist comes on the scene, right, and these things start moving along much quicker. And then you get Jesus, obviously, driven out in the wilderness, tempted, and this is where everything fires off big time, right? After his baptism.
And his favor with God and man, certainly with respect to man, it's seasonal.
Sure.
So it's in season here.
Yeah.
But we see as it goes, in season and out of season, which of course is what Paul brings up to preach in season and out of season, so that life we reflect as well.
Well, let's not forget this is this ends the season of Christmas for us. Because the next thing would either be Epiphany if you do Epiphany, or the first Sunday in Epiphany, where those things that they did not get, now he's going to start revealing to them how it is that they might know him, and see that and come to that understanding.
But clearly, you have to understand that it says that he grew up in wisdom and with favor with a lot of people, and you have to understand that he was probably able to do a lot of miracles that people just could not fathom or understand. Like that's why, clearly his mom was like at the wedding of Cana. It's like, hey, Jesus, do something, kind of situation. So it gets for me is like this situation where Jesus is, it goes back to the humiliation that you keep saying. It's like he reveals himself a little bit, and then he humbles himself again, and he does so all the way until the actual start of his ministry, because his mom always goes and says, well, he's out of his mind, and you're just like, how often does this happen that she could come up and say he's kind of out of his mind? It's like, he is growing. His the power of God is in him, and it's slowly coming out until the point where the time has come for him to do the work.
Yeah.
And this is really the only little snippet we get of Jesus' childhood, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
they refer to as the lost years of Jesus. And then you get apocryphal anecdotes of him doing this and that. You can't go there. You know, you have to stick with the text, the Holy Spirit inspired text, which is quite an impressive job at authorship between Luke and the Holy Spirit.
Well, you can go there. The question is, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, if Luke gives us these pictures, and really it's only Luke who gives us those pictures of him at 12. Nobody else gives us anything between his birth and Mark. You don't even get his birth.
Yeah, right.
You only get him showing up at John the Baptist. So you have to ask yourself what's important.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's significant.
Yeah. And in that case, I mean, big piece of it is this compliance and fulfillment of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like, because
That's
with last week with Simeon in the temple, and then moving here now, you know, this is in accord. He's 12 years old. These things are happening. And it's like, so when you meet him as a man, in other words, when he comes on the scene with John the Baptist, he is this faithful son. He's always been a faithful son.
Right. Yeah.
Israel reduced to one. Man.
What if you want to answer the question that maybe you'll ask during the sermon, depending on how you do it? What was Jesus doing all those years? He was being the faithful son.
Yes.
That's what he was doing. Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah.
That's a good point.
All right. Good stuff there. Thank you, gentlemen. This concludes the Christmas season.
Take the decorations down.
It came so quick. And, you know, but, you know, take a minute to like and subscribe. Share your thoughts, how you're preaching on this text. It is unique. You don't get it every year with the story of Jesus as a boy in the temple. So it's a unique opportunity. Let us know what you did, and God bless your preaching.